Hello, this is Archie Dunlop with Talking Astrology with Archie on Tuesday, April the 18th, 2023. Now, I'm just going to give you a heads up. We are about to have a new moon that happens on Thursday. It's quite a powerful new moon because it is a new moon eclipse. Technically, it's an annular total eclipse. So when we've got a new moon, clearly the sky is dark at night. There's no lunar illumination. And, that can have implications for things which have nothing to do with astrology. It can mark, for example, the start of offensives, which makes us think of the war in Ukraine, a Russian offensive or a Ukrainian offensive, because it's dark. That's a good time to launch an attack. Of course, with modern technology, the new moon is not as powerful as it used to be, but it's certainly something to be considered. Anyway, let's look at the position of the planets for today, which is Tuesday, April the 18th, 2023. So let's have a look at what we've got. Here's actually the chart of Zelensky. I want to talk about him in a moment, but first I want to look at today's chart. I've thrown in all the hypotheticals. So what have we got? The moon is now in Aries, and it's making a sextile aspect to Venus in Gemini. There, moon, 8 degrees Aries, making the sextile to 8 degrees Gemini. Having made that sextile, it makes a square to Mars in Cancer. I think that this moon sextile Venus is really very fortunate. It's fortunate for all kinds of relationships. It's a great time to meet people, to express our feelings, and if in the past a relationship hasn't gone too well, maybe we can patch it up. Having said that, as soon as the moon makes that sextile to Venus, it makes the square to Mars. Now, normally I would say that moon square Mars is not particularly fortunate. However, the moon is in Aries, which is the sign of Mars, and Mars is in Cancer, the sign of the moon. So in the jargon, moon and Mars are in mutual reception. So for many of us, we are going to be quite forceful, perhaps even angry, but in the process we can get results. And in terms of relationships, it may be a time where being angry, telling people what's on our mind, even if we're being rude, can get results. So you have to decide how far you want to push things. But there's no need to be timid. Don't be timid just for the sake of it because you're afraid of upsetting someone. If you handle things correctly, you can express your feelings, be forceful, and still keep the peace in the end. Now, as far as other things going on, I think that moon sextile Venus is good. And for most of us, it should be a reasonable day. Yet there are other things happening which may be a little worrying. For one thing, there's Mars, and it's on the Hades-Kronos midpoint. Now, Mars on the Hades-Kronos midpoint is about the government, and it's about the government behaving badly. Or maybe not just badly, the government being downright evil. So, if you have any involvement with the government, you must assume the worst. I remember, of course, if you're in America, today is the deadline for filing taxes. So be very careful about how you file your taxes because you don't want that coming back on you. You've got to be honest and truthful. So that's important. But at the same time, the government is out to get you. Just remember that. And so if you're in a position where you're vulnerable, then you're going to be in trouble. So if you're going on demonstration today, and you've got worries about police, yeah, the police is the violent aspect of the government. So yeah, just think about that. Even if you think you're in a democracy, don't. It's all lies. I know that sounds a bit a bit conspiratorial, but this is what happens when you've got Mars on the Hades-Kronos midpoint. Mars is about force. Hades is about the evil underside of society, and Kronos is just the government. So yeah, you really have to watch that. Also, we have Pluto on the Mars-Uranus midpoint. Pluto, Mars, Uranus. Mars-Uranus is about violence with guns, explosions, that kind of thing. Pluto is there. And so many of us may feel a desire to transform the world, not necessarily in a pleasant way. From a military point of view, this is a time when people are going to want results. Thinking about the war in the Ukraine and the massive pressure on the Ukrainians to launch an offensive. They're really, really feeling it there. But it's not just about Ukraine. It's wherever you are in the world where there's any form of conflict. It could be bad, and yet anyone involved in conflict is going to have this crazy optimism. This is because there's Jupiter in Aries, and you'll see that it's exactly opposition the hypothetical planet Zeus. Zeus can be about violence. It can be about gunshots. So there's perhaps an optimism that by taking military action, we can get great results. I suspect it's misplaced optimism, but it's still, the optimism is there. And Venus is making a semi-square to Jupiter. Venus is also making a 135 degrees sesquiquadrate to Zeus. So that Venus might be acting as a trigger. Thinking, yeah, this is the time, trigger, kind of unfortunate term. I suppose the pun was intended. Yeah, Venus is, might trigger this and cause huge action because someone thinks it's possible. Someone thinks it's possible to get what they want through force. Now, before I talk about the 12 signs for today, I did briefly want to talk about Zelensky's chart. Now, when you're thinking about Zelensky, he's the president of Ukraine. If you don't know, but anyway, there's Uranus on it today. It's at 1744 Taurus. So remember that, 1744. Now let's look at Zelensky's chart. Zelensky has in his chart a aspect between the moon, there's his moon in Leo, and Uranus. And his moon is at 1743 Leo. Now that means that today he has Uranus square his moon. Now at the best of times, that is going to represent real tension. He's going to want something to happen. And he has moon and Uranus in his natal chart square. So with Uranus square his moon, there is a sense of tension about the man at the moment. Perhaps a sense of excited tension. I don't know. Yeah, it'd be interesting to know what kind of day he's going to be having. And Uranus square the moon is not just a one-day wonder. It's dealing with a couple of days before and after. It may make him impulsive, it may make him angry, it may make him crazily optimistic. I say that because of the midpoints he's gone. If we look at the midpoints for Zelensky, we can see that he has the moon on the Jupiter-Vulcan midpoint. That's perhaps in the past things have gone well for him. Jupiter-Vulcan is about optimism. Vulcanus, this very powerful force, symbolic of the blacksmith of the gods. That's Vulcan. I think that's Vulcan. Vulcanus. So he's going to want to make things happen. Yeah, but is it going to work out for him? I don't know. We're talking about the Ukrainian offensive. My feeling is that the last lunar return that Zelensky had, he had Jupiter on the midheaven, and the next lunar return, I think, is in a couple of weeks' time. And with this new moon, I'm thinking it's now or never. Really, I don't think any offensive the Ukrainians take is actually going to work, but I think that you would kind of expect it to be about now, wouldn't you? Particularly with a new moon from a military perspective. I'm not predicting there's going to be any offensive today. I'm just noticing that there's some quite heavy stuff going on. Anyway, that's all I want to say about the planets for today, and I'm just except I do want to talk about the 12 signs. I'm unusually optimistic, I should warn you. So Aries, 5 stars. Disciplined anger can move mountains. Taurus, 5 stars. Through dynamic effort, you create amazing effects. Gemini, 3 stars. You're persuasive, but don't push your luck. Cancer, 4 stars. At work, your sensitivity makes you a star. In fact, Cancer should really be 5 stars, shouldn't it? Leo, 5 stars. Don't be afraid of being crazily optimistic. Virgo, 3 stars. You're the one watching and analysing. Libra, 4 stars. Relationships work fine if you can handle the pace. Scorpio, 4 stars. You absolutely understand Scorpio, you absolutely understand that the government can't be trusted. Reason being, Mars rules Scorpio, and as I said, Mars is on the Kronos, Hades, midpoint. Sagittarius, 4 stars. You apply considerable force to the situation. Capricorn, 5 stars. You beautify your surroundings. Love prospers. Aquarius, 4 stars. There's lots to say. And finally, Pisces, 5 stars. A day for constructive and perhaps fortunate financial activity. So my apologies for being so optimistic, but that's probably as good as it gets. I try not to be too optimistic, as you perhaps gathered by now if you've been following me day to day. I mean, not many people do, but just in case you have been. So anyway, that's the stars for today. What I want to do is change gear and look at the I Ching. So the I Ching, as usual, I cast the I Ching, and I got the first hexagram I got was deliverance. Deliverance is number 40. It's about perhaps being in a bad situation, but suddenly it resolves. Something happens to remove the problem. So what might that actually be? What is our fundamental problem? What is actually holding us back? In many cases, I think it might be other people. There are other people out there who are holding us back, and we just cannot break with them. It's just so difficult. Perhaps we've known them for years and we can't make the break. We have to give them time. Give them our precious time. And it's really annoying and it's getting us down and so forth. But with deliverance, there's a suggestion there that we can change the situation. And what the I Ching advises is that we make the break in our mind first. We may need to consciously say to ourselves, we have made the break. This person is no longer important to us, and we are no longer morally obliged to give space to this person in our life. And when we do this, we can find freedom, we can find deliverance. And it may be that you have to do it, just more than once. Maybe Maybe it's quite stressful doing this, which brings me on to the second hexagram, which it moves to, and this is a picture I've got. This is relates to a lake with a hole in it. So this is hexagram 47, which is described as exhaustion. And the reason it's exhaustion is because the top hexagram, the top trigram, is the lake, and underneath the lake is a big hole. In other words, the water of the lake is just diminishing. It's flooding down through this hole, rather like this. I think this is in California, and in the end, we just feel exhausted. And so I think what this means is that, the pressure of having to get rid of people, having to break contact with people who are no longer doing us any good, can be quite exhausting. So, there's no gain without a bit of pain. And so, once we've laid things to rest, we've got rid of the people and things that are holding us back, we've done a good job, but we feel absolutely shattered in the process. Anyway, that is all I'm going to say for today, and I will talk to you tomorrow.